Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott McKenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
Hey, welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast. So glad that you are here. My name is Scott McKenzie, and you know that this platform, I say it all the time. If you're an industrial professional, you need to be here because this platform is dedicated to you, the industrial pro, the companies that get it done. You innovate, you persevere, you make things happen, you never give up. That's what we're all about here. That's what you're all about. Thank you very much for joining. We've got a great interview with a gentleman by the name of James Soto. He is he's got industrial chops, quite frankly. He's bringing the truth bombs. He's with Industrial Strength Marketing. That's James Soto. You're not going to be disappointed because you know that I'm very passionate about all things marketing, sales, and branding, especially now. Let's get going. Yeah, I am. By the way, if you're looking out on the video, if it had smell vision, I smell like delicious hickory smoke because I love cooking. And I'm doing a brisket right now. And because in this world of Corona, I can do that. So it's delicious. And I have my wonderful Southeastern baseball cap on. I used to teach there. I used to teach business and marketing and all that good stuff. And I think they're wonderful people. So nonetheless, that's what I'm looking like right now, if you like it or not. Okay, a couple of things before we get into the interview. One, you need to go out to industrialtalk.com. Why you need to be podcasting, especially now. I'm just telling you right now, everything is out there. Go to industrialtalk.com/why you need to podcast. Find out more. Everything is out there. All my information. Have at it. No big deal. Contact me. No strings attached. I'm also doing a series on business beatitudes, the beautiful attitudes of business. And again, it's timely, and we're talking about humility, and it's all about leadership, right? And that's out there as well. And then finally, we're going to be starting a series on life after the coronavirus. What are you going to do? Business, industrial, what? What are you going to do? Are you doing it today? Are you preparing today and saying, okay, how do I change my business? I see what's happening. All of that stuff, very important. You need to get in the game and figure this out. And that is why it leads me to James Soto. James Soto, and we start talking about what people do in times of challenges, like what we have now. But, we've got to persevere. We can't just say, oh, woe is me. I'm listening to all of the social media, the news, all of those people, doom and gloom, whatever it might be. You can't do that. Stop doing it. I don't do it. You don't need to do it. Or two, you can just sort of sit on the sideline and wait for somebody else to tell you what to do and do nothing and be reactive and saying, oh, okay, I guess that's what I got to do. And that's not what you're about either. You're not going to do that too because you are innovators and you persist and you fight. So what do? All right. We got to keep your business going. And James brings, like I said, the truth bombs in marketing, sales, and all of the strategies that you need. And he offers a great landing page that you can, once again, you could just take this questionnaire and it's fantastic. It's called getmarketingready.com. Getmarketingready.com. Beautiful layout, by the way. I've taken it. Great questions. Really super food for thought type stuff. So go out to getmarketingready.com. That's what he gives you. Take care of it. Don't be doom and gloom. Don't just sit on the sideline. We're talking about fighting. We're fighting right now, and we're going to keep your business going. And once again, it's not just you. It's everybody in the whole entire world. So let's get going. Let's keep moving your business forward, even in these challenging times. So once again, here's James Soto. Insights like you won't believe. Enjoy the conversation. I did. You should too. All right, James, welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast. So glad that you made time in your busy schedule to talk to our wonderful listeners out in the industrial market. Give us a little background on who you are and where you come from. Dazzle us, please.
Oh, thanks, Scott. It's a pleasure to be here. And I just got to tell you, you have the voice of a radio podcast angel. So it's wonderful to be on your show.
Note to self, I take that down. I am a podcast angel voice. Well, I've never been told that in my lifetime. Thanks, man. So give us a little background.
Yes. So, yes, I'm the founder and CEO of Industrial, but really more so, I truly identify as an industrial. I was born to a family in manufacturing. My father was in manufacturing 42 years, worked my way through college on the plant floor. My sister was an industrial engineer. I came out of college and worked through data and the transition from analog to digital, and really built my chops digitally then, and was recruited to help Thomas Publishing transform to what became ThomasNet as they went from print to digital. Saw a massive opportunity in the market, created industrial strength marketing to really help companies make marketing the strength of their business, and really transition from traditional to technology-based marketing and thinking. And that was in 2003. And fast forward, we are one of the top agencies. And when I say that, we're not just saying it like everybody else, one of the top. We've really worked hard to build an agency that makes a difference for manufacturers, distributors, and companies throughout the supply chain.
I love it. Tell me about your manufacturing background. Where you were on the floor when you were going to college. What were you manufacturing?
Yeah, so we were manufacturing shampoos. I was born in the Bronx, and I was whisked off as a baby to, the apartments just outside of the factory area, to the Bletchley plant in Stamford, Connecticut. And my father was working there. He was there 42 years. And
wow.
And so I grew up identifying with folks on the plant floor, the relationship my father had in running distribution, logistics. He worked in the mixing of the chemicals. And, I was running like the herbal essence line, and those packets were always breaking down in the production lines. And I learned what it's like firsthand to do repetitive work on the shop floor, but also take pride in it. And I absolutely honor and celebrate people there, and people who were there for years and years, 20 years.
Is it still operating?
No, it isn't. It was bought out by P&G just as my father was retiring 42 years in. And it's, came out of there, and truly, didn't see myself as an industrial. I'm a Gen Xer. I came up, with Atari and Pong and PC Junior.
Burning your screen with the Pong.
And hammering like lines of code, with my Commodore VIC-20 and the PC Junior. So I'm that guy that came up and can identify with the innovation we've seen in our lifetime. But I think I can reconcile and marry the two. I think that's one of the unique superpowers Gen Xers have. And I think you're going to hear a lot more about us.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I bet you it smelled good when you came on home from work, right? It didn't stink.
For sure.
Which was a benefit. Okay, so what we're going to do, listeners out there, this gentleman, James, has a tremendous amount of background, and as well as I do that, if you've been a consistent listener, I'm all about branding, marketing, sales, strategies associated with that. And he fits right in line with my passion. So what we're going to do, I highly recommend that you get a paper and pencil out, because we're going to just start peppering him with questions, and he's going to answer them extemporaneously. So that is going to be the flow of this particular podcast. So if you want to increase sales, marketing, and branding, you need to be listening to this particular podcast and not take it lightly. Are we game there, James?
Yes, that's a heck yeah. This is a great show to listen to.
Yes.
Let's do this.
Okay. Now, this is one that I pointed out real quick. So listeners out here, this is a question. Why 90% of B2B industrial marketers are failing? Why? Why are we failing? 90%, that's not a good number.
Well, ask 100 industrials if they write a formally written marketing plan every year and see your answer. And that will start to give you big indication where that 90% number comes from. In creating industrial strength marketing, in 2003, think about where we were. Google was just starting to really emerge to the manufacturing sector, starting, effectively in 98. And so essentially, the problem starts with the fact that the traditional way manufacturers grew their business, if they keep doing, could actually cause them to fail. And I saw that early back then. And what I really realized was this fundamental first principles truth. It really boils down to the leader. And their relationship with marketing. And I saw that as a major problem, an addressable problem in the market. And what it came down to were three things. For the most part, across the manufacturing sector, even to this day, marketing is missing, mismanaged, or misunderstood. And it really stems from the fact that if you look at the industry week, 500 industrials, if you look at, the 67,000 machining fabrication companies combined out there in the US, if you look at, the 250,000 manufacturers of all shapes and sizes, only about 3,800 which have over 500 employees. There's not even on those large industry week, 500 companies, the majority of them don't even have a CMO. So what does that speak to the marketing function's presence in a business? And you can go all the way through down to small business, and you can see that's changing. But for the most part, as you really look to how they truly value the marketing function and how it can strategically position and differentiate an organization and help a company realize its growth agenda, it is absolutely missing, mismanaged, misunderstood. And everyone's on their own step of that journey from transitioning from traditional technology marketing.
Why is that the case? Why has there's been it seems like there's a slow adoption to that particular, I mean, we have to have marketing business. I mean, business out there has to have, why is there that happening? What's going on?
Yeah, so it's really that same principle that we talked about, right? It's why is that? It's because I think we ultimately are at different stages of our journey, generationally, and when you really look at the leadership construct, there is a generational issue. And so as we look at changing the way we do business and addressing marketing, or you've got to make your way of living your life and doing business obsolete before generational technology, market forces, or the competition does. And so as you really look at that spectrum of marketing, and then as we look at Industry 4.0 digital transformation, I would argue, marketers are actually ahead of the curve a bit in terms of we've been using AI, we've been using predictive type data, we've been using, MarTech stacks, and we've been very effective with them. And a lot of these predictive and intelligence-based technologies, have the same promise we use as marketers. But when you look at that journey and that transition, a lot of them are still not making that strategic level of investment. It's not manned at a leadership level. And not only that, there's not a construct of insights and analytics that allow folks to understand even what it's doing for them. So it's a relationship issue, Scott. It's the fact that the CEO either has had bad experiences, felt they've been burnt, someone shouldn't show up for the date. And it's because the fact that companies, for the most part, don't have strong, integrated, and aligned teams that are driven by analytics and measurement. Most companies that have that outperform folks that don't. And they're typically not debating the efficacy of marketing and technology and integrated sales. They're actually trying to figure out how to do it better. And they're not questioning where the industrial buyer sits today and what digital means to them.
See, that to me smacks of a great opportunity. If you're a marketer, if you're looking into the future and you're looking at these opportunities, that there's a tremendous disconnect that exists where, 90% we're failing. We have a lot of opportunities to be able to build a marketing solution. It just seems like there's a great opportunity for the future.
Yeah, I think we are at a time, Scott, where I absolutely believe that that we have an opportunity for anyone listening that is a leader, that you can change the way you do business. You can actually build a brand that actually allows you to command a premium. You can position your company with such unassailable positioning that you start to shift control from the industrial buyer to you as a supplier. When you look at that innovation, you can do that. And I think as an individual, if you're a mid-level marketer, if you're the VP of sales and marketing, and when you say marketing, you put up your hands with air quotes,
right?
Now's your time. That all the information in the world is available to you. If you're willing to be brave and have that conversation with your leader, just like you say in your show, be brave.
Be bold, be brave, dare greatly, baby.
Exactly.
Have that conversation.
This is the moment that you say, look, you hired me, you know me, you trust me. Even though I'm in a mid-level marketing position, you know that I'm here to do the best with the business. And I want to tell you some things that I think can impact the business. Are you willing to listen? I pray you're in a healthy, great culture with a great leader that is willing to listen and look at and wrestle with and heck, to have fierce debates. Those are great. That's when the good stuff happens. And talk about that role. And you can be that CMO one day. You can fix the fact that for the most part, there's not even a chief marketing officer in the business. It's getting increasingly hard to compete and survive trepidation in the market without having a sustainable way to build your brand, position it, understand what the customer needs, build, work, and close pipeline.
See, this is something that I've always wrestled with is that, okay, let's say my journey as a podcaster, it resulted in me finding the information and getting out there and then having those aha moments of like, oh, I can do that program. There's a tremendous amount of learning that always just happens. And you and your company are right in the middle of the innovation that is taking place within that marketplace.
Yes.
And how do companies say, you're the CMO and stay current? Because you find yourself in the trenches and you always have to stay current. How does somebody like, let's say I consume content all the time, of course, but to be able to just constantly stay at it is just, it changes so fast.
Yeah. Okay. So again, I think we have what is the MarTech stack world, about 7,000 marketing technologies plus when you look at software and technologies that are out there. There's shiny objects. We're looking at the power and potential of AI.
Yes.
There are things that AI can do better than humans. And yes, we're going to need to free marketers from repetitive work like writing subject lines.
Yes.
We're seeing data from some applications that are outperforming open rates. We're seeing ad copy on Google AdWords starting to transition to AI. The high cognitive thinking, things like that. So when you think about what do you need to know, you really need to know the fundamentals still. Yeah. Let me tell you, if we can get away from really looking at shiny objects and understanding what are the key predictive success or failure metrics, what are you measuring that you should be that you're not? If we can understand really, go back to, your business model generation frameworks that you're a big fan of, Scott, and look at, hey, what's the problem in the market we're solving? What are the customer segments? What's our value proposition? That's good stuff. We look at brand and business growth strategy. We look at brand positioning strategy, points of differentiating, nailing your niche, understanding the key differentiating factors of what allows you to be a truly verifiably distinguished brand. Those fundamentals so that you can get it down to one paper, one sheet, so that, hey, everybody, here's who we are.
Yes.
This is our mission, our vision. These are the the three things our customers are telling us that we're different. If you can get everybody literally to one page, that's where I say start. Because you can communicate at scale. You can communicate with clarity. You can know when you're in and out of bounds of your brand's promise. Ours is to help companies be better marketers and sellers of their industrial products and services. Yes, even if we don't do this stuff for them, they have to have a great marketing function, and our job is to be their guide. And so that's how we do it. It's not the stuff we have to keep up with.
Yeah. It's
the basics and doing them well, and then you can ladder up. I talk to a lot of folks, and I think everyone should consider this. I don't know if I've said it before, and I'm sure someone else has said it. If we are as marketers judged by the things we make, we're in real trouble by making stuff. There's studies, there's great books on authority from Drew McClellan that I've read, and we've got to move from that to truly being that trusted guide, that authoritative figure. That's why you're doing this podcast. That's why I'm here, so that people say, hey, the guy, these folks know there actually are true, like we're unicorns. We're two industrials literally talking to each other.
Right.
And we're talking about this marketing function, and this is real stuff. And so I think that's the answer to the question. It's not about the stuff you have to keep up with. It's what are the fundamentals to understand what business you're in at a corporate strategic level, at a business unit level, how do we compete? And from a brand level, how do we implement that strategy and center that positioning and the value proposition to the customer segments through the marketing sciences? It's not about the SEO tip of the day. That the CEO can care less about that. They care about discoverability, not SEO. And being there when there's, at the point of decision, Motion Industries is concerned with, at the point of decision, what's going to trigger that market-based decision for MRO. When we are looking at predictive sensors that says that bearing or that gear or that motor is going to fail, that companies like that are looking at, with all this predictive intelligence, and something says it has to be replaced or repaired, who gets that order? That's what we need to be thinking about as marketers. That's how technology can disrupt. Because if there's a marketplace and it orders it and it's automated and it happened, you never had a chance. So our world's changing rapidly. So we need to understand the breadth of it and understand those black swan moments, that one black swan that's born out of a million that changes everything. Yeah. And we have to know which ones to act on. And that's the biggest stressor of a CEO.
And you're absolutely correct. But I think one of the things that I gain out of what you just said is that you've got to be in the game. You got to at least recognize that is where, because things are happening so quickly. And I like the fact that don't get distracted by the shiny object. I did. It's easy. And it's so different. It's sort of like, does that make sense? But I think to your point, you just need to get engaged. And I love the focus on simplicity in that one-page sheet and then execute on it. That's great.
Yeah, I've after so many reps, I'm so guilty of it. We're all guilty of it, as in any role, whether it's the acronyms or jargon, and especially marketing jargon. That gets in the way of a lot of conversations. Yeah. And one of the things I've learned is try to put things macro and start to say, okay, let's really talk about, think about talking to a leader. And this is the context I typically think. And you start to say, okay, we have to have clarity. Let's start with clarity. Who we are, where we're going, how are we going to get there, mission, vision, values, who's the customer, what their needs are. Let's get there. Let's get that clarity. Then we need to get targeted. Where are we focusing? What is our niche? What is the key area where we're going to focus? Targeted. We're not talking about brand workshops. We're not talking about all that stuff. And then and once we're targeted, let's have a plan. Let's be proactive. So let's have clarity. Let's be targeted. Let's be proactive, meaning let's have a plan. And 90% of folks I run into don't have one, and if I see it, it's not really a plan. No. And then we have to say, okay, what does that require? Well, one, we have to build the foundational elements. That's the stuff we do. That's the project stuff. But really, when you're out there in the activation mode, what are you trying to be? Talking about content strategy, all this stuff. We're trying to be communicative. We've got to be communicative. Next word, persistent. Has to be persistent.
I like it.
And the highest mandate, it has to be engaging, useful, and actionable.
Yeah. Love it.
And then here's the gotcha one.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many folks invest to do all that stuff and do marketing and spend on advertising. Literally your chances of success, because there's so many digital alternatives when sourcing, responsiveness is the next big tenet that I speak to, because 27% of leads, according to the Harvard, Business Review, never get responded to. If you take an hour, even a half an hour to respond, your chances are 10 times less likely to have that become a sale and enter your sales cycle. If you wait a day, you're most likely not going to even get them to enter your sales cycle. Response time is key. Mm-hmm. And then you have to be transparent, and what that means is looking at your analytics. So when you look at it from a tenant's standpoint and you're trying to keep up with things, you can start to say, well, how do we need to position the organization? Then you're looking at generational, technological, and market forces, right? When you're looking at how we compete, you're looking at, okay, how are we positioning? And when we're looking at implementation, we're really starting to look at the earned media that people write about you, and the owned media, the content that you create, the paid media, and then the social media. And so, those are earned, owned, paid, and social. I like to break it down there. And then we look at, okay, what's the state of your marketing function, your sales function? Do you have staff? You don't have staff? Do you outsource? Do you do it internally? What's your MarTech stack look like?
I got to stop right there. MarTech. What is that?
So marketing technology stack. So that's CRM, marketing automation.
Yes, got it.
All of those things come to play, and then data. We get caught up in the data, but we may not be looking at the construct of the organization and the belief system of the leadership, which is the fundamental, if you want to do first principles thinking, why is marketing for the most part missing, mismanaged, or misunderstood? It's the leader. And that's where we can be of service to them, inspiring them to have good conversations in a manner that they can consume.
Real quick,
all that stuff.
What about do you sense a disconnect that happens within, I'm in marketing, that's what versus sales? I'm in sales and we go out and we sell, and there's a messaging disconnect. Do you find that somewhat prevalent?
So let's just get like here's the truth, right? I have never been in an organization, and I've been in the game since '92, right out of college, that there hasn't been friction between marketing, sales, and production and operations. And let's just come clean with that. Hey, you sold something, you got me in trouble. There's no way we can fabricate this, and this landed cost per part. You're crazy. Are we buying the customer? What's a lead? So essentially that's where the health part comes in. That's where a good, strong organization. So the truth is the buyer doesn't care. Yes, sales arguably is every time you got to talk to a person is a point of friction potentially.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so I think the truth is we have to be open to the realities. We have to not focus on ourselves, but what that customer and prospect wants. If they get what they want in the manner they want to get it, everybody wins. And so I believe that marketing and sales are an integrated function. I think the companies I see that are doing it well or good enough are outperforming. As a matter of fact, in our agency, we have a CMO, and under that function is both marketing and sales. It's not even just one funnel, and it's not a one parallel. There's not one linear journey. The industrial buying process is by a decision-making unit in B2B. It's not one buyer and buyer journey. It's looping back and forth. Look at Gartner's studies. They're phenomenal on it. We have to be in the business of understanding that the decision and the criteria are evolving as the stakes get higher. If it's a product and I need a bearing, that's one thing. But if it's something that's make or break to our new product roadmap and the product production line we're tooling up for, that is the stakes are much higher. And so depending on the complexity and the stakes, you'll have to understand that your industrial buying process and your industrial marketing and sales process are going to be different and significantly more, complex to the point you have an opportunity to deliver more value to more people, but you've got to mature your ability to market to different people who are going to look at your information in different ways and at different touch points coming back and forth. It's not linear so much anymore.
You touched on something prior to the podcast that was somewhat interesting to me, and I want the listeners to hear it, and that deals with gaining, especially today, where we pretty much achieve. I think you said 70% of our reoccurring revenue through existing customer base, but we're not focused on expanding our market. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've had the distinct pleasure to have perfect timing of started my business during the manufacturing slump. Coming out of 9/11, 2003, I made a move to focus exclusively on industrial strength marketing, industrial the agency, in 2007 and 8. Replacing close to $1 million worth of business to do that with 100% focus, and here we are today, truly on what seems to be the cusp of a pandemic recession, which we do not know the likes of. I've never seen a country shut down like this today.
Same here, and I'm an old guy.
It's serious. So we have to take care of our people. We've got to take care of our customers. We've got to take care of our supply chain. And then we can talk about, okay, how do we take care of the business of the future? Well, the best way you can do it, to your point, is to take care of the customers you have. In any business, especially services business, in the manufacturing sector, understanding custom manufacturing as a service, the technology around it. is that the cheapest way, it's 5 to 7 times cheaper to grow business through an existing customer than it is to get new business. But the truth is 70%, 60 to 70% of businesses' new revenue any given year in the manufacturing sector comes from existing customers, not new ones. So if that 30 to 40% is new, you have to think of marketing and selling to both audiences and very simple segmentation. This is why getting your data act together. What would be the impact if you looked at your historic Rolodex, had an intern get to everybody's remaining emails that are still around, and you just said, hey, have you seen us lately? What if you looked at the customer who are active or passive customers on and off, and you said, hey, here's the breadth of what we can do, not just the last thing we did for you. And the folks that are in your pipeline, win, lose, stall, or draw, you can persistently really engage them as you nurture them through. Those are the impactful things that we're going to have to do today in order to really change the tone of how we diversify our mix and absolutely simply segmented in terms of where the business comes from, new business. You got to get more. You have to have an organic growth strategy for your customers. Agencies like mine are the same way. We get anywhere between 60, 70% of our new business through organic growth. And, our goal should not be to be overexposed. A lot of businesses are going to be struggling financially, and they're going to be looking for funds. There's some revolutionary things that they may do, right, to support people when there's literally, shelter in place threats. But you've got to be ready. You got to be ready on a number of fronts.
So it's an interesting time because it is so unique and it happens so quickly. I would imagine, you listeners out there, I would imagine you really haven't had that time to really sort of think through it. You're sort of being in more of a reactive mode. We've got to persevere through this whole thing. We've got to be able to do it. I like what you're saying.
You got to revisit.
Yeah.
Everything. Like, this is the moment where you revisit your strategies, and you've got to look at the new context to center it on the customer. Because if 25% of your business is with more than 25% of your business is with your largest customer, a bank won't finance you.
You will not.
And what would be the implication if that customer went away and you don't have at least 3-month reserves of cash? And so all businesses have to take heed. Here we go again. I think some of our younger marketers and sellers and business leaders may have not been through this. And this is going to get ugly if there is not a strategy to really take care of business with the business you already have.
And you're absolutely spot on. Listeners, take note of that. I want one last point, and it's the one that you brought up. There is massive opportunity. Tell us a little bit about what that means, even in light of this challenging and really rapidly changing market. Is there massive opportunities still exist?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity. You have to take the new context of what the currencies are going to be of the customers that you have, that the customers you're going to need. I think this is also a time where everyone's so busy and literally, I think we actually literally may get shut down, right? Let's look at that scenario. Well, you have a few options. Again, once your people are taken care of, people work for their families, not for you, right? They don't work for me, they work for their families, and I work for theirs. And so I think once we take care of that, notwithstanding, I think there's going to be a moment, and this is, I think, the macro opportunity, is to really look at your business objectively and look at it fresh. Look at what are the things that truly the market demands. Is it future proof? And I would really argue, if you follow the pattern where you're deciding what you want to keep and what you want to kill, you've got to look at one of the things you may want to, or do anew, is I really think, look at the state of readiness of your marketing. Are you ready for marketing? Do you know the things about your business, about how you're positioning it? Is there clarity on that? There's some tools that we've just finally just said, look, let's just give them away, because this is a time where people need to know where they're at, because people are making decisions on an arbitrary basis, and the opportunity is to have another opportunity after 2 recessions, the companies that marketed during those recessions outperformed the ones that didn't. And they even did better after recover. And this is the time. That's the reckoning. Do you want to follow that pattern and take your losses? I sold because I got scared in the market. Or do you want to say, I don't have a leader in the function. I don't trust marketing. You're going to have to reconcile that relationship. And you've got to start with understanding what you're measuring, where there's clarity on your positioning, your audience, your product. And there's good frameworks that you can use. They're free. We've got the internet. And you either can go get that, you can go partner, or heck, you may find things you're going to realize you need to build a team. And I believe you need to start looking at the predictive success metrics. You need to know how much runway you need. What's the time it takes to close the sale? If you're winding down and you're going to be offline, and are you going to stop building pipeline? Are you going to ramp it up? If you got a capital equipment product life cycle, it takes a year to sell. If you're not actually measuring that in real time because you really don't know, those are the things you're going to need to know. So that's the opportunity. I believe it's to center on the customer, look at your positioning, and absolutely think about making marketing a true distinguished function of your business. Technology and sales, bring it all together and make that a non-issue. You know how to build pipeline. You know how to focus.
See, and
you're aligning your product to serve that need, and that drives your R&D and your innovation.
See, but what I hear you saying too is that you just can't back off in the marketing unless it's that opportunity to reassess what is truly of value and what is not of value, and make those decisions, and then tackle it from that perspective as well going forward.
And it may not be the activation part of the marketing. It's literally the readiness, the positioning, creating clarity. I'm a big fan of like one-page marketing plans, one-page business and positioning frameworks. I see a lot of people doing stuff like, we're going to build a website, and it's like they're trying to work on true company messaging and positioning and brand and competitive, kind of comparison in the context of filling in little boxes on a website that they're trying to build and finish. I don't talk very tactically because I don't think we're in great websites are not, they're a dime a dozen, but you don't want to start thinking of your business of we need a this or we need a that. You need to really say, do we really want to be a well-focused, organized, positioned business so we can follow those tenets? We can absolutely dial in and nail our messaging. We understand our niche. We know their needs. We speak to their needs, and we're very communicative with them. And we're not just saying, look at our widget, look at our stuff, and talk and chest pumping and talking about our stuff. It's their problems, not yours. And that's the second part of our opportunity. If we focus on their needs, we're going to take care of ours. It's just going to be scary, potentially.
It is what it is.
But we're saying this as of what date, right?
We're going to lean on each other. That's the only thing. This is when the community comes together and leans on each other. So that's what's so beautiful about the industrial community. Now, we got to wrap it up, unfortunately. I can talk forever, James. Hey, are you active out there on LinkedIn?
Yes. I am active, James Soto, ISM.
Got it.
James Soto-ism. That's me personally. Love LinkedIn. And then
you also have that market readiness assessment that is out there that will be out on the Industrial Talk podcast, so that you guys need to take that assessment. But you've offered it for free, and it's looks pretty doggone good. Check out the podcast. You'll see the link there. It's actually free. It's 40 questions. I just really encourage anyone that reads, especially if you're a leader. It's not a tool to use as a weapon to make a point against sales or your marketers or vice versa to your CEO. It's actually a tool to say, how did you feel about not knowing what your velocity is, understanding what the lifetime value of a customer, average first year bookings, what's your organic to new business ratio, all these things. Like I named a few question stats that just go into like a standard return on investment equation. Most folks we meet actually don't have one and don't calculate against it. And they actually set arbitrary goals each year. They don't know how it takes to get to a sale. And they actually sometimes let people go who are building good pipeline
They just didn't know the velocity it takes for them on average to close. So we built a readiness assessment around positioning, around marketing related finance questions that CFOs are going to want to look at, salespeople, marketers, and especially leaders are going to want to look at. And the impact I think you start to get is wow, if I knew the lion's share of these questions, man, I have a baseline from which to get context.
And I'm talking about timing. I mean, I think it's an absolute wonderful time to do it.
Yeah, you're going to keep
now.
or kill, but if you're not measuring, it's just let's try this, let's try that.
Yeah.
And we believe as industrial marketers, it's our first job to get someone ready to market. And if they don't, and here's the thing, Scott, if they don't know where they're at, and you do something amazing for them, they have no context to where you took them.
Right, exactly.
And it's no wonder why the such low levels of marketing investment are made comparatively to others as a percentage of total revenue that you find in the industrial sector. We've been doing a budget guide, an industrial budgeting guide for 2020, and the numbers are not good. And it supports the fact that our investments represent what we value. And I think now's the time that we can work on our business. I think it's an opportunity. Let's not repeat the pattern. And I'm not saying go hire people because we're trying to sell you crap. It's go do it yourself if you have to. You've got to have a marketing function, because take a competitor with a comparable product and they got it nailed, they're going to win. I'm telling you.
Yeah. That's the optimistic message that we need to get out.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely spot on.
Let them sit, get to work.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, James, thank you very much for joining the Industrial Talk podcast. Reach out to that star. He's fantastic. Go to that LinkedIn account. He's got a great stat card out there. And I'm going to wrap it up on the other side, and all the other contact information that you need. It's all going to be out there on industrialtalk.com. Thank you very much for joining. You listeners, stay tuned.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
All right, again, thank you very much for joining the Industrial Talk podcast. That was James Soto, founder, CEO, all-around big thinker at Industrial Strength Marketing. Check it out. He's active out on LinkedIn. Trust me, he is. And I'm telling you, he has solutions, and and his team has solutions in these challenging times. Again, go out to getmarketingready.com and fill out that doggone form out there. It asks great questions. Food for thought, because we want you to be successful after this whole virus thing blows over. Again, also out on industrialtalk.com. Go to industrialtalk.com/why you need a podcast. It's everything. Soup to nuts. I'm not even asking for any information. It's all there. All that information is free because you need to bring that into your portfolio of marketing and sales and figure it out. I give it all to you for free. Gosh darn it. As well as the business beatitudes. It's important that we, you got to start thinking about leadership, especially now, and how we're going to transition. And then finally, we're going to be putting together a series on life after the virus. I'm not sure if I like that title, but that's what we're going to be doing. And we're going to be highlighting leaders and start talking to them about what they're doing to get prepared after. Thank you very much for joining the Industrial Talk podcast. People will be brave, dare greatly, change the world. That's what we're all about. Thank you very much for joining. Have a wonderful day.